Support the channel by becoming a channel member or joining the Patreon through patreon.com/manlightfoot.
I am so in love with her right now.
Dreamworks hit us with one of their more stylish films, The Bad Guys. Talk about a little engine that could. This was a movie that had plenty of backing behind it just on the look of it alone. So many attached onto this film pretty easily, and to be honest, you can get why, for more reasons than one. There's just something about the way the movie carries itself that made me and others a fan of it. Based on the old kids book series, which I have no knowledge of outside of its existence, the story is about a group of notorious thieves known as the Bad Guys.
Okay.
They get caught on one of their heists and opt to reform in lieu of prison, but it's all a scam as they plan to escape with their targeted loot at a later date. Things change though when their wolf leader named Wolf starts to grow a heart and may actually want to go good. Now the story itself is definitely on the familiar side with the whole bad guys going good thing, but just because something's been done before doesn't mean it can't be done again in a unique way. This movie is all about style with some good substance. The characters for one are a lot of fun. Wolf is a total charmer with a slick tongue. He's a likable sleazeball that tends to stay one step ahead.
Why would Marmalade leave the Golden Dolphin unprotected?
Because maybe it's a trap.
Or maybe...
Wait.
Yeah, it was a trap.
Mostly. The story of redemption for him is a little been there, done that, but it's one of those cases of it's just done really well. Like you had this burger before, but this time it was cooked so well that you enjoy having this particular one over and over again. You like seeing a good bad guy redemption arc, and it's done to a more pure degree. Something where it's like just getting down to the bare basics of it and just really understanding how it works. It also helps that the other bad guys carry their weight pretty well. Snake is the second in command and the grump of the group. He's a sourpuss but clearly has a heart of gold. There's a good conflict between him and Wolf that goes how you'd expect, but they do put a nice spin to it. There's this genuine feel of good friends that comes from these two's banter. The opening scene itself pays homage to Pulp Fiction in a way you wouldn't expect from a family animated movie, but it's done pretty well. You get sucked into their conversation, which actually gets you in turn sucked into their friendship. And so by the end, you do feel the hurt that happens when you come across the third act breakup. It actually is effective because you actually got to know who these characters are and how they play off of each other and what they mean to each other. You just really enjoy the camaraderie among these thieves. There's honor among thieves, as some people might say.
Go in the house.
This even applies to the other members like Shark, Tarantula, and Piranha. They don't get too much time fully dedicated to them, but enough is given to them to let you enjoy their presence. You do get a feeling of these are good friends as you see them banter off of each other. There's a lot of good downtime dedicated to them that allows for things to work and get you invested in them. Even though there's not a lot of time dedicated to each individual member, it's still enough to get you on board them as a team and actually feeling bad for when things go wrong for them. An interesting thing about them is they are played by celebrity voices, but those celebrities actually put in good effort here. Honestly, it's to the point that if you hear another voice coming out of these characters, it would feel a little off. Just goes to show that the voice actors definitely had a lot of fun with these characters. Now we come to Diane, who is just awesome. She's certainly you may be 2 steps ahead, but I got you figured out the second I laid eyes on you type. She's someone who believes in the true good of others, mainly because she's lived as a bad guy. She knows that there's more out there for you if you just apply those skills to something good. She's a likable character that it makes sense how people cling to her. That and she clearly awakened something in a few people, something very horny. You'll definitely want safe search on when looking her up. Or not, if that's how you roll.
Get your life together, you freak.
Then there's Professor Marmalade, kind of a more the less said about him the better type. Granted, this movie is over a year old by this point, so I'm pretty sure we all know he's your reveal villain that changes up by the end. You can see it coming pretty easily with certain things he does, but I feel he works well enough if you're not paying way too close attention to the finer details, honestly. It's just kind of a thing of, oh, I kind of pegged that this is likely our villain, because let's face it, too nice of a guy just shows up and he's just that nice. Come on. Overall, not a bad character. He does have some entertaining moments as you watch, even when he's trying to pretend to be nice and everything. There's sort of a case of there's little cracks here and there to give you an indication that maybe he's not as great as you may think. So it's really not too bad. Thankfully, it's a case of there's just good setup and payoff, which honestly, that just goes for the whole story. There's a really good sense of setup and payoff. As you watch, there's these moments that seem like a basic gag in a cartoon, but it turns into a good character moment. It's sprinkled throughout the movie, and it's a nice way of having things come to a head, or your Chekhov's gun, if you will. It's really a nice homage to those type of heist movies where they have a grand plan and everything just plays out based on that plan, and it's all revealed how it's done by the end. It's really just a little bit of that and just being done really well for an animated movie. A subtle thing I enjoyed about the story is that it can be interpreted as a race allegory, but in a good way. The bad guy's whole thing is that society always sees them as villains, so why bother being good? Them, Diane, and Marmalade are the only animal characters we see in this world, so it's safe to assume this can be about prejudice forcing a stigma on marginalized groups, and those groups in return living up to it since that's all society will see of them. It really comes through with Diane showing that you can still be a good person and do the right thing regardless of what society says. Arguably, this analogy might feel like it's too on the nose with some of the ways they go about it, but I think it's done in a better way than even Zootopia. This one manages to actually have the message and be more universal, whereas the other one muddied things when it had Nick become a cop by the end. But this one I think works in a better sense of you don't even have to think about it, it can be there and you can see it, you know what I mean? Now obviously the next big thing to talk about with this is the animation. Dreamworks wanted to show what they could do with stylized 3D, and boy did they show out. The soft roundedness to the characters plays into the over-the-top expressive animation. It's quick with the movements that makes it feel like you're watching a high-budget bendy cartoon, which essentially you are, but that cartooniness shines through here. The look and design of this movie even goes along with the unforgettable high-octane action that is just total sex. The action pops off when them going for those skip frame animations mixed with strong posing to give it that oomph. I've seen plenty of car chases in animation and I think this is up there. Coupled with the kick-ass soundtrack, you can't go wrong. The music itself can really get your blood pumping during these action sequences. It's just a good combination of all these different factors just coming together and working. Now the comedy in this movie can actually be a bit dark, and it's kind of a case of like, okay, this actually can make some sense to being PG, particularly because they have certain moments where it's a bit gruesome when you think about it, particularly Snake wanting to eat people like Marmalade, not to mention the fact that they actually have animal testing facilities in this entire world, even though we've only seen a few animals be sentient, so it's kind of a case of animals are still somewhat enslaved here.
Dude, this is pretty fucked up right here.
But thankfully there's also other humor that's beside the dark stuff that's also pretty good, like the interaction of the characters. They're very good interactions and they're fun and a bit mean here and there, but honestly some of them get a genuine good laugh out of me, like this one.
Can't miss a photo op with the governor in a pile of garbage.
Oh, Mr. Poodleton, you're too hard on yourself.
Overall, The Bad Guys is definitely not a bad time. There's some fun characters in here that you can cling to, great animation that's to die for, and a good story that may be familiar but done so well you'll have fun on the ride. Dreamworks wanted to show that they still got some new tricks up their sleeves. With what came after it, this showed they should be back in the conversation of top studios. It may seem like a movie with not a lot to it, but it's certainly one piece of animation that can steal the show.